dove right into the middle of it, and that's okay. I think there's a lot of interesting things that we could touch on from there. I think going back to that idea of, sound as a way to inform us of our environment, I've seen this quote through some of your presentations of, turning dumb noise into intelligent sound. It's a great summarizing statement that has really broad implications. What is dumb noise, and how can it be useful?
Great question. And I would say very simply, dumb noise is less understood sound. Dumb noise is an ambient decibel reader that says, hey, it's loud or it's silent. That's pretty dumb noise to me. You know it's loud or you know it's silent, but you don't actually know what is loud or what is silent or as close to silent in that environment. So where we fit in is we actually fit into that sound classification layer, but we can add in other technologies as well for localization. We touched on that earlier as well, through beamforming and sound source localization, all of that. There's a lot of value in directionality and time of flight and all of that through sounds. The research, the hard math on that's already been done. Where we like to fit in is having a large library, a very accurate model that detects a very large number of sounds. Rather than saying it's just glass breaking, actually, I gave the example earlier, we can actually break it down to glass breaking, glass shattering, and glass cracking literally look different within the waveform, within the spectrogram. They have very unique sound profiles. And same like, with a gunshot, whether it's a gunshot or classifying the actual weapon class, a pistol that could be concealed versus a handgun that could be concealed versus an assault rifle. It's a different level of threat as well. So getting into the granular intelligent sounds, that is really how we like to focus our business and solving those pointed use case, I would say in a very niche market, going into hospital rooms, realizing that quietness in the patient room is a $50 billion problem to an underserved market that we're able to actually resolve within a sound classification platform that we built entirely in-house with a model that actually is able to process more than 500 different ambient sounds all in real time, even on a device that's no larger than a case of AirPods, right there in the room, invisible to the patient experience, but providing so much value in that environment. And there's lots more to embellish on that piece, but that's really what we like to focus on is what is the actual value to this particular customer in this particular environment. And that's been that entrepreneurial journey for me in building that business case and recognizing market trends. COVID was one that led us very heavily into hospitals. And my sister also was another reason. And all the experience around that. But more specifically, I knew technically how to make it happen because we'd done this with video to process on the edge to intercept those streams and show value to that particular stakeholder or those teams of stakeholders as well. So our tool today is more focused on executive buyers and executive decision makers within a hospital environment than it is on the charge nurse that's working in the wing today.
Yeah. So that data that you're gathering and processing and analyzing allows those decision makers to make some of those critical decisions about operations rather than you said as, just an on the floor, another alert that can be habituated and, becomes another thing that they have to worry about. You're using that data to make those operational improvement processes.
Yeah. And if you believe it, alarm fatigue is actually one of the top 3 patient safety issues and has historically been across industry as well. So as much as we're monitoring for sound and we hear a lot of alarms, a lot of beeping hospital poles, a lot of those going off in every single room. There's lots of studies even done by Hopkins. I think it was more than 700, could have been just less than 800 alarms were heard in the average ICU room just in a given day. And just an average patient room was more than 350. So think about the level of disruption from each one of those frequencies. That's just one sound profile. The doors opening and closing. Think about the operational inefficiencies, I would say, of nursing banter in the hallways beyond quiet hours where doors may be open down the hall. Simple solution, close the doors in the less critical environments. Or if a patient's screaming in agonizing pain and all the doors in that hallway are open, that means that every single patient's being disrupted, unfortunately, by that one patient that's in agonizing pain as well. Let's focus on the care delivery that's most important and then let's help them to recognize the opportunities to improve for those that can improve on an aggregate scale as well. Is kind of our perception on that type of an environment.
Yeah. I imagine most people aren't familiar with this concept of alarm fatigue or habituation to certain sounds. There's a really interesting story, and I believe it was Tom Furness that shared this when he was doing work with the Air Force, and they were talking about the alarms inside the cockpit of a jet and how the pilots would eventually just ignore them. And the danger of ignoring an alarm. You can imagine if you ignored your fire alarm, or if you ignored a beeping sound in your car, how dangerous that can be, and finding these novel ways to overcome that alarm fatigue or that habituation. And so that's a really interesting approach to using sound data as a way to improve operational effectiveness. So that's such an interesting thing to dive into, and I think we could probably spend a whole hour just talking about habituation and how to get around that. But I want to move on to some other interesting points about what you're doing.